Do you want a swing line across the Manhattan skyline like Spider-Man? Or possibly cavort across the cosmos like Captain Marvel? Or simply smash like the Incredible Hulk? Well, you'll be able to do that and more in the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game. And I'll share my review right after this. Happy holidays, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. The Gaming Gang 12 Days of Reviews continues, as today I'll be sharing my thoughts on the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game from Marvel. But before I do so, I want to remind you, if you enjoy the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a few ways. First, by utilizing our affiliate links to the One Bookshelf sites, such as DriveThruRPG, and to do so, simply visit gaminggang.com, click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. You can also make a one-time donation by way of PayPal or become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links in the show notes. Also in those show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. It's absolutely free to sign up, so hang with the gang over on Discord. Today, I'll be sharing my review of the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game from Marvel. This 320-page hardcover is available now, carries an MSRP of $59.99. If you want to grab the PDF, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game. A couple of things I want to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, this is not a review copy. I did not receive this from Marvel. I actually got this by way of the generosity of a friend of the Gaming Gang who happens to live in Australia. They want to stay anonymous, but they have actually provided me with the opportunity to review a couple of other things in the past, as well as now the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game. So a big thank you to them. They know who they are. We're also not going to take a look at each and every page of this book, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside. First thing we'll do is take a peek at the credits page. A lot of folks work very hard to bring this to life, so let's give credit where credit is due. The lead writer and designer on this is Matt Forbeck, but as you can see, a lot of folks worked very hard to bring this to the masses. And of course, this is jam-packed with Marvel artwork as well. Let's talk about the production quality to start off with. First thing, this cover here, it's got a matte finish to it. I got to be honest, I have experienced this sort of finish before on alternative covers for 5e D&D releases in the past. This tends to get scratched up or kind of rub off pretty easily. I just want to mention this. This is fine right now, but it could become an issue with repeated use, just so you know. As far as the paper stock, really nice. This is good, solid paper stock here. Very similar to what we would find in D&D books. So just kind of give you an idea. But the actual paper stock itself is actually heavier than what we would see in, say, 5e D&D books. Kind of similar to what we see with the new edition. Oh, sorry, it's not a new edition. Dungeons & Dragons 2024 releases have paper stock pretty similar to this. Artwork throughout, you are going to experience some fantastic artwork from artists such as John Cassidy, Greg Land, Alex Ross, and more. Although it's kind of weird, you'll be reading through and then suddenly you'll encounter a piece of artwork that just isn't as fantastic as what you would see from those artists. I'm not saying there's bad artwork, very uneven. So I was kind of surprised by that. It's not a big deal, but I do want to mention that. This does utilize a new system of mechanics. It has been designed by Matt Forbeck. It is the 616 system. You're going to utilize 3 6-sided dice, 2 of one color and 1 of another color. Now you can buy a Marvel die where the 1 is replaced by this symbol here. So you don't actually have a 1 on the Marvel die. This actually counts as a 6 alongside this face as well. Plus, a Marvel result has some additional benefits too. I'll get into that in just a moment. So what you're going to be doing is whenever you have to roll a check, say like an action check, ability check, so forth, you're going to roll your 6-sided dice, and then you are going to add the ability that you're rolling for. So even if you're utilizing powers, the powers do tie into abilities. So you're always going to be adding that ability. Now, abilities for humans could range from -3 to +3. -3 is pretty bad. +3 is actually really good. So once again, for humans, you max out at a 3. But of course, superhumans, cosmic characters, things like that, they can go beyond a 3 as far as their abilities. You're going to be looking to meet or exceed a target number. Target number is derived from the rank. So if you're running an adventure with rank 1 or 2 characters, the target numbers will tend to be lower. If you're running an adventure with higher power characters, 4s and 5s, the target number will be higher, and the target number will be modified by the difficulty of what's looking to be achieved. So here we've got our ranks. So rank 1, a challenging target number is 11. We also have the modifiers here as well. So if it's something trivial, -6 that target number. If it's something absurdly difficult to achieve, it's +6. And of course, the ranking will change the challenge number. Easy enough. Now, if it's something that anybody could do or that character should be able to do, you don't roll dice. If it's something that's impossible to achieve, you will not roll dice. We also have edge and trouble. Advantage, disadvantage, essentially. So what'll happen is if you have edge, you will re-roll your lowest die. If you have trouble, you're going to re-roll your highest die. So you could have edges and trouble stack. So you might have 3 occurrences of edge and 2 occurrences of trouble. So of course they're going to cancel each other out. So you would have 1 occurrence of edge on that roll. Simple enough. Pretty easy peasy. I will say there is math involved in the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game, but no more than what you would encounter in Dungeons and Dragons. So if the math in Dungeons and Dragons doesn't scare you off, the math in the Marvel Multiverse RPG shouldn't either. We do have some other roles too. So if you get your Marvel symbol and you succeed, that is a fantastic success. If you roll 6s and the Marvel symbol, that is going to be the ultimate fantastic success. Ultimate fantastic successes always succeed. It doesn't matter if you've got 5 instances of trouble. Does not matter. You are still going to succeed. Now, with a fantastic success, that's a successful roll with the Marvel symbol. That is going to be you succeed and. So you succeed in what you're trying to do and something good on top of that happens. Now, we also have fantastic failure. So if you roll the Marvel die and 2 1s, all right, I was going to say, where did that 1 go? Like so, that is a fantastic failure. You fail at what you're trying to do, but. So you failed, but. So it's a failure, but something positive comes out of that. Pretty cool as far as the narrative process of the game. So we have abilities, and the abilities are might, agility, resilience, vigilance, ego, and logic, which, amazingly enough, spells Marvel. Of course, the 616 is built on the 616 Earth of the default Marvel universe. That's a cool little nugget there. As far as the characters themselves, you're going to have your attributes. You also have health, which is your resilience times 30. And then you also have focus, which is going to be your vigilance times 30. Now, in combat, you can take physical damage, which comes off your health, or you could take mental damage, which is going to come off your focus. Focus is also used to activate some of your powers. Most powers are just automatic, but there are some which will cost you focus points. So if you end up at 0 health, you're knocked out. You're dying. Not that superheroes die too often. And when they do, they usually come back. And if you reach 0 focus, then you're broken. You're shattered. And of course, there are different ways for you to regain health and focus, one of which is spending karma. So depending on the rank of your character, and our ranks run 1 through 6, you will have that number of karma points on a daily basis for you to utilize. So you can spend karma to reroll dice. You can spend karma to regain health as well as focus. All pretty simple. In fact, the core mechanics section is all of like 6 pages. Pretty simple. The vast majority of the page space in this core rulebook is devoted to both powers as well as character bios and stat blocks. Combat is relatively abstract. The Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game is not going to be a really tactical sort of role-playing game. Now, you do have different actions that you can perform. You also have different reactions that you get. So you get an action and you also get a reaction on top of your movement. And your action can range from attacking or helping out an ally or regaining health or focus. There are quite a few different things that you can do with your action. And then we also have things that you can use for reactions, some of which are also actions. But as far as the combat itself, pretty easy to wrap your head around. So when you're attacking, you're going to roll, and then you're going to be concerned with your Marvel die again. Because what will happen is if you're successful and you're causing damage, you're actually going to multiply the Marvel die by the ability that's associated with it. So if it's just a slugfest, we're talking about might. Now, there are some powers that can change your multiplier. So as an example, you might have might of 5, but then you've got a power that actually boosts your multiplier maybe by 2. So let's say, as an example, I landed a successful attack. My Marvel die shows a 5. So I would take my might and whatever bonus modifiers and multiply that and then add my ability to it. It sounds way more complex than it actually is. So as an example, I roll a 5, my might is 5, but I also have a power, which gives me an additional 2 to my multiplier for might. So that would make it 7. That'd be 35. And then remember, I have a might of 5. Add that on top. That would be 40 points of damage. If you roll a fantastic success or an ultimate fantastic success, you will double your damage. Other things that a fantastic success can do in combat is it can actually activate another aspect of a power you may have been using. So it would be under the power itself that's going to break down if something special on top of that will happen if you roll a fantastic success. As far as your target number in combat, so once again, let's go back to this slugfest, right? So I'm going to be taking on a character who is going to have a might of 3. It's 10 plus 3. So you have a defense for each ability, and it's simply 10 plus the ability. Very easy to work out. Now, there are some powers out there that may actually improve that. Spider-Man has that as an example. If you're going to play established characters in the Marvel Universe, this is a really easy game to kind of slide into once you understand the mechanics. Creating the character is probably a little trickier, a little time consuming. I would say probably right there with the time it takes to roll up a Dungeons and Dragons character, or maybe a little less than that. But you are going to find that you're going to have points that you can assign to your abilities. You're going to start out at 0. And for an example, if you're a rank 1 character, which is a rookie, that's kind of like a shield agent as an example, you're going to have points that you can put into your abilities. Now, you have 6 abilities, you'll have 5 points. So something is going to be at least a 0, and you can deduct from your abilities to increase another ability. So you've got your 5 points, you got your 6 abilities, maybe you do a logic -1. So that would give you an additional point. So now you would have 6 points you can use. So when you're creating characters, it's going to be important for the players and the narrator, the GM in this case, to have a good feel for what kind of power level adventures you want your player characters to be taking on. You're also going to have an origin, you're going to have a background, and you will have an occupation. We also have traits, and we have tags. And we will have explanations of the traits and tags. The difference between the two, traits affect the character narratively. They may also have some sort of a mechanical aspect to them, whereas tags are essentially just narrative. So as an example, one of Peter Parker's traits would be inventor, and one of his tags would be awkward, right? Something along that range there. So this section here is our powers. We have over 100 powers contained within the core book, and they do fall into sets. So as an example here, we've got elemental control, illusion, martial arts. So if you're looking to play a character similar to, say, Shang-Chi, you'd be looking at martial arts. We have magic, obviously enough. Doctor Strange. We have spider powers. So that's Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse characters as well. I should mention, unlike other superhero role-playing games, such as Mutants and Masterminds or Champions or Villains and Vigilantes, these powers are pretty specific. There isn't a lot of wiggle room. So as an example, if you've got weather control and it's rank 1, because we have different ranks to some of the powers also. Rank 1 means that the character creates a storm in a 5-mile radius centered on them. And the effects of that storm is it will halve the movement rate of anybody caught in it. That is what that power does. Now, some of the powers are very specific, and they are, like, for an example, shield powers like Captain America would have. They're very, very specific. Some are a little more broad, but they still have a mechanical thing that they do. For each of the powers, you'll see what power set they belong to. Is there a prerequisite? What is the action? Is it a standard action? Is it used as a reaction? How do you trigger it? What is the duration? What does it cost? Sometimes you have to spend focus in order to activate a power. A lot of powers, you don't have to. And then what is the effect? Done. That's what you're looking at as far as the powers. There are a lot of powers in here. Although I will say, if you're looking to create a character who's more of a gadgeteer sort of character, not really much by way of these powers. I have not had an opportunity to see any of the additional source books or adventures for the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game. My assumption is they have more powers, they have more traits, they've got more tags, and so forth. Then we get into the characters. As I had mentioned before, you can easily take on the role of an established Marvel character. So as an example here, we've got Ant-Man. They are rank 3, so that means they start off with 3 karma. Health is 60, focus is 90. Here's our abilities. Here we have our defense score. Once again, it's the ability plus 10. What does that add to our combat checks? Now, keep in mind, some powers might change this, so it's not automatically just going to be the ability score. We have the damage, and this is kind of funny because it's like melee, agility, ego, logic, because we have the different types of damage. Over 100 characters, so superheroes and villains, as well as shield agents, AIM agents, and so forth are included. Now, something else to keep in mind too is the ranks of these established characters could change. You could change the rank of these characters. Once again, keeping in mind a 1 is a rookie, whereas a 6 is a cosmic powered sort of character. So here we've got the Hydra agent. I know I'm kind of blocking out the Hydra agent, but they are rank 1. You will also see that your villains do not have karma. So they do not have an opportunity to spend karma. But as far as the collection of characters that are included in the book, really nice, really solid. There are some characters that I did not expect to see, such as Night Nurse, and then villains such as Red Skull, I would expect to see. I know with the core rulebook, there are going to be people out there, well, how come this character's not in here? How come this villain's not in here? I guarantee a lot of it is coming. Now, something else I do want to point out, this core book is up to date with the Marvel Universe up to the point it was published. There have been some major storylines that have changed things about these characters, as well as, I want to say, some traits that are in here from some of the origins. Just kind of flip it on through to give you an idea of the various characters within. We have a short section about the Marvel Universe. I'll be honest, if you're not fairly well-versed with Marvel, you're probably not going to get as much out of this role-playing game as people who are big Marvel Comics fans. Keep in mind, this is the Marvel Comics 616 universe. This is not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So there are huge differences between those two. Then we'll get a Game Master section, the narrator section, which is actually pretty nicely done. I liked it quite a lot. Talking about playing in the universe, utilizing established characters, and created characters, how to really give your role-playing campaign or role-playing adventures that Marvel Comics feel, with filling out, backstories and different commitments that the characters have and important NPCs who are part of their lives. So nicely done as far as the narrative section here. We wrap up, we get a glossary with an index. That is a peek inside the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game from Marvel. Once again, this is available now, carries an MSRP of $59.99. You can get the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. All right, let's swing back over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. Truth be told, when I had an opportunity to check out the playtest for the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game, I was not impressed. I wouldn't say that the book was an unmitigated disaster, but it was not good. And it did not leave me with high hopes for this core rulebook. So thankfully, I can say that this is a far, far better role-playing game than I was expecting. I have to give a lot of credit to Marvel and Matt Forbeck because they took much of what just did not work in that playtest and they threw it out. Not something we see all too often. There are times we'll run across a publisher who releases a public playtest, and regardless of what the community says, they eventually just release what they planned on in the first place. That is not the case here. So kudos to Marvel and Matt Forbeck from essentially taking something that was practically unplayable and turning it into a pretty good role-playing game. Mechanically, very easy to wrap your head around. Yes, there's some math involved, but no more than you would run across in most games of Dungeons and Dragons. So that's not a big deal there. And if you have a hard time with math, just bust out your phone or a calculator and you can figure it out that way. Easy peasy. Now, as far as the Marvel universe itself, if you are a Marvel reader and you're pretty well versed in the universe, you are really going to dig this role-playing game because it does really take a good deep dive, at least into the character bios and the powers of various different superheroes, and translates them pretty well to a role-playing game. Now, of course, if you're just a big fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and really don't read Marvel comics, there are vast differences between the two. So the role-playing game universe may not necessarily appeal to you as much. Also, if you don't read Marvel comics, I don't know, why are you checking out this video? I mean, that is kind of the reality of things. I do like the mechanics. I will say, as far as like combat, slugfests, pretty abstract here, which some people will be fine with. Other people will probably want more crunch and more tactics involved. So this is a lot lighter in its approach to combat than, say, Champions or Mutants and Masterminds. I don't recall Villains and Vigilantes well enough to comment on that, but this is a fairly rules light approach to superhero and supervillain combat. So if you're looking for something where you're going to have a vast number of options available to you, a little bit different. Although when you bring the powers into it, that will, of course, add a lot of different options. Speaking of powers, they are very, very specific. So unlike other superhero role-playing games where they are pretty broadly applied, that's not the case here. So as I had mentioned, like with weather control, rank 1, very, very specific in what it does. So if you are somebody who's going to be creating your own superhero, you are probably going to find situations where you've got an idea for a superhero and its powers, And then when you check out what's available in the core rule book, you're not going to find something that exactly lines up. So you want to keep that in mind. Where I think this shines more is if you are going to take on the role of an established Marvel character. So if you're playing as Spider-Man or Captain America or Elektra, Daredevil, what have you, it's going to feel like those characters because the powers are specifically built to reflect the characters in the Marvel universe, not necessarily the character concept you have in mind. All in all, I am very pleasantly surprised by the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game's core rulebook. I think I would have a lot of fun playing in the game and running the game, probably more so if I were dealing with established Marvel characters than created characters. But nonetheless, pretty nice job. Like I said, I am very pleasantly surprised. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give the Marvel Multiverse Role-Playing Game a 7.5 out of 10, which is a huge improvement from that playtest. Keep that in mind. All right, that is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell because it'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. The Gaming Gang 12 Days of Reviews will continue. And I should also mention, be sure to stop by on New Year's Eve as I will be sharing my favorite role-playing games of 2025. Thanks for watching. Happy holidays, everyone. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.